Let's start this lesson with what we know. When it comes to graduating high school students, Oregon fails. Year after year after year. 1 out of every 4 high school students in Oregon simply does not graduate.
It's always the students who lose. On every issue, it's the students who lose.
Admittedly, there are a lot of factors, but some say one factor seems abundantly obvious. Oregon students just don't go to school as much as kids in other states. In the state of Oregon, kids go to school an average of 165 days in a school year. It's 990 instructional hours. Here are the minimum number of school days for every other state in the country. The national average is 180 instructional days. And by instructional, we mean school days where kids are sitting at their desks learning, not those in-service, conference, or teacher prep days.
In fact, my colleagues and I used to refer to November as no school-vember because there were so many days out of school in Oregon.
So if graduation rates in Oregon are among the worst in the country, which they are, the question quickly becomes, is there a correlation to the low number of days that kids actually go to school in Oregon?
Absolutely, I think there's a correlation between graduation rates and not giving our students enough instruction time.
Kim Sordell sits on the Oregon State Board of Education, and she is the only member of that board who would talk to us about this issue.
This isn't rocket science. The problem is there isn't a will from the governor or the legislature to do anything to improve those graduation rates. They're making up excuses, they're delaying. I'm tired of it.
We wanted to talk to Governor Kate Brown, but her office instead directed us to the newly appointed Joint Committee on Student Success. That's a group of lawmakers who will travel the state looking for what works and what doesn't.
Is there a correlation between high school graduation and the time in the classroom? And we haven't actually done any studies as the legislature.
Representative Diego Hernandez sits on that committee. He says adding school days for students in Oregon to catch up with the rest of the country is not the answer.
Do you want to be in a classroom that doesn't have all the supports it needs longer? Or do you want quality?
But parents we spoke with quickly disagreed.
But I used to live in Happy Valley, and we moved to Ridgefield specifically for the smaller class sizes and the longer school year.
Well, consider this. If a student in Washington starts their education in kindergarten and completes it all the way through high school, by the time that student graduates, he or she will have gone the equivalent of an entire school year longer than the same student in Oregon.
If we've got other states that are giving a full year of extra instruction time, of course they're going to be ahead of our students.
Down at Tualatin High School, they are doing it right. Graduation rates consistently are high, hovering in the 90th percentile. Principal Darren Barnard puts an emphasis on instructional time. He's actually hired an on-track coordinator to get freshmen involved early. And he says instructional days for students are key.
Yeah, the more the better for me, and if we want to be good at something, we got to practice at that. We got to be engaged. I don't know of anyone that doesn't believe more's not better.
So, why not add more school days in Oregon to catch up with the rest of the country? The longer you work at something, the better you get, right? Well, we don't know the answer for sure because no one from the Oregon Department of Education would do an interview with us other than Kim Sordell. Others say it comes down to money. Districts commonly trim their budgets by trimming the number of school days. They do those through furloughs, and throwing more money at education doesn't necessarily help if that money does not make it into the classroom.
Well, we know a good portion of that goes to PERS. So what do teachers say about this?
It's the great question, and we have wonderful, great, qualified, talented teachers in Oregon, but we heard from Principal Bernard at Tualatin. He says his teachers are always asking for more instructional time. Teachers, though, are represented by a teachers union, where the focus is on a lot of issues like lowering class sizes, providing educational support, individualized student attention. The union would probably argue against adding instructional time without adding the resources necessary to fund it.
Well, it's embarrassing.
Yes, it is the bottom of the barrel almost. Something needs to change, and we need to hear from the top people at Department of Education in Oregon.
They do, as we mentioned, have that subcommittee on joint subcommittee on student success, and they're looking at all issues in the legislature.
Well, I hope they talk to us about it. Yeah, thank you, Chris.